Okay, I'm going to try to do the rest of Leviticus 21 through 27, I think. Now, this is law and the standards of the priest. Basically, they can't make any baldness on their head or shave off the corner of their beards. It had to be hairy. Long hair, long beard. They can't profane the name of their God for the offerings the Lord made by fire. They can't take a wife who's a whore, or profane neither shall they take a woman put away from her husband. So a priest. Now, people use this for preachers and all this stuff, and pastors. Now, the priest could not take a woman that was divorced. They couldn't take a woman that wasn't a virgin. She had to be a virgin. Like I said, they couldn't drink and all that stuff. He can't go near a dead body, so no funerals. He couldn't have any blemishes. He had to be clean cut, no marks on him, no defects. He couldn't be a dwarf or a crook-backed, bent over, or a blemish in his eye, or be scurvy or scabbed. I mean, the priest had to be pure, basically. And then it goes on, not touching any unclean thing again, and all that, and no stranger shall eat of the holy things. If the priest, about the priest's daughter and stuff, she can't get with a stranger and all this stuff. And then it goes to the laws concerning the offerings and stuff. Basically, their guidelines for their offerings. Like I say, I'm not getting too deep into Leviticus because the law is dead. We're not under the law. Then you've got laws concerning festivals. Now, they had festivals. They had the Sabbath, which is the day of rest, celebrating God's rest after creation. They had the Passover and unleavened bread, which is basically the deliverance from the slavery in Egypt. Then unleavened bread, dedicating the first portions of the earliest crop to God. The first fruits, dedicating the first portions of everything to God, whether it be a child or crops, animals. Day of Atonement, which is the atonement for the sins of the entire nation. Then the booths, celebrating God's deliverance from Egypt and provision throughout the wilderness wanderings. So it had all those things, all those festivals. The first fruits, Pentecost, which is like basically the Sabbath. I believe after the seventh Sabbath. They'll do the offering and all that. I didn't see that about Pentecost. Chapter 15. 50 days. Yeah, after the first fruits was delivered or was offered, the people burnt meat for a grain offering, drink, sin offering and all that. So it's basically just festivals that they held. Trumpets. They'll blow the trumpets for a memorial, and they will do no work. Then the Day of Atonement, then the Tabernacles. They'll talk about the tabernacle and their feasts and what they'll do there. Then you've got laws concerning the oil and the bread and stuff, about what they'll do for that. But then you had someone, an Israelitish woman's son, blasphemed the name of the Lord and cursed him. Now, the mom was Israeli and the father was an Egyptian, but he cursed the Lord. And they brought him forth, and he cursed him, and they took him out from all the congregation, and they laid their hands on him and stoned him and killed him. So they can't curse the Lord. He that blasphemes the name of the Lord shall be put to death. If a man kills a man, he'll be put to death. If a man kills a beast, should make it good, beast for beast. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. And that's basically that. I mean, it's just laws and commandments and festivals, and it's eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. And that's how people should look at it today. If people looked at it like that today, and people have morals and some sense, the crime rate should be lower. We'd save money by not operating jails, because you'd either be dead or stoned or whatever. People would be scared to commit crimes if it was like this. So then you go on down to 25, and it's law concerning the Sabbath. 6 years you'll sow the field, and the 7th year you'll rest, because you'll have enough harvest to not have to work the 7th year to sow the land, to give the land time to rest. And that's one of the reasons too, because they didn't obey that, and that's why they got pulled out of their land, because they didn't give the land time to rest. Then you got the laws concerning the year of Jubilee. And basically the year of Jubilee is when you borrow from somebody, or you do this or do that, everything is restored whole to everyone in the year of Jubilee. Then it goes on down to laws concerning obedience. Basically the Lord talking about if you obey Him, He'll be there for you. Tell Him not to make no graven images. To worship Him, keep His Sabbath and reverence His sanctuary. Walk in His commandments and do them, and He'll give you rain in due season, and the land shall yield her increase, and the trees of the field shall yield their fruit. They'll prosper if they follow the Lord. He'll rid the evil beast out of the land. Neither the sword shall go through your land. And they'll chase their enemies, and they'll fall before them by the sword. It says, 5 of you shall chase 100, and 100 of you shall chase 10,000s. And your enemies shall fall before you. That's basically showing, if we follow the Lord, He'll protect us. He'll take care of us. But if we turn from Him, then He's going to deliver us into the enemy's hands. He'll set His face against them, and they'll be slain before their enemies. And they that hate you will reign over you. And you'll flee when no one comes after you. You'll be scared. Now this is to the Jews, but at the same time, if you're His child and you follow after Him, He'll take care of you and protect you. But if you turn from Him, He's going to let whatever happens to you happen to you. That's just the way I take it. And then, basically, the land will enjoy her Sabbath as long as it lieth desolate. So he said, He'll bring the land into desolation, and your enemies which dwell therein shall be astonished at it. And He'll scatter you among the heathen, and will draw the sword after you, and your land will be desolate, and your cities waste. And you look at a lot over there, it's desert land. It's desolate. Nothing there but desert and sand, and it's hot. And that happened. That's a prophecy of itself. That happened because it happened. You look at it, it's probably green tropical paradise back then before. Now it's desert land. And the enemies ate them up. Israel was surrounded by all their enemies. And everyone hates them all around them. Their only allies, the United States. But how big of an ally is the United States considering we're broke? And that's the truth. Look at their land now. It's desolate. There's nothing there. He told them, if you follow me, I'll take care of you, and you'll prosper, and nobody will bother you. But if you turn from me, I'll set my face against you. Your land will be desolate. You'll be scattered abroad, the heathens. You'll run from nobody's even after you. And, look at it. Look at their situations now. Then chapter 27 is concerning the vows and the tithes. Basically, they had to give the same amount. It doesn't. once you're a certain age, you give a certain portion, and then the older you give more and all that. The priests will value whether it be good or bad, and it'll be the priests. And it just goes on about the tithes to give to help the sanctuary and or the tabernacle and to help the priests and the Levites. And then that's about it about the tithes. But they had to give. And that's Leviticus. So basically, you got laws from God, morals, and I believe that's where morals came from. Because today there's all kinds of thoughts and ideas of how people believe and think's right and what people think's wrong, and that basically says what God said we should do, we should be like. I mean, it was to the priests and to the Levites and to the Israelites. But, I mean, what makes us exempt from trying to follow the Lord's word and try to live in that way? But that shows, not to turn to witchcraft, not to make human sacrifices, to follow His law, and He'll take care of us. If we turn from Him and keep disobeying Him, He'll set His face against us. That was God's direct relationship with Israel. But for us, see, we don't have to make sacrifices for our sins to get atonement for our mess ups, because Christ was the final sacrifice. But I believe with Him being the final sacrifice, we do owe, and we should give something to God, whether it be ourselves for His service or whatever. I haven't got to that point yet to figure out what it is. But this just shows me that I am thankful for Christ dying, because I'd be dead, stoned. I mean, I wouldn't have even had to sacrifice the animals. I'd have been dead and stoned before I could get to an animal, really. But it makes you appreciate the things today, reading this and reading what they went through back then. But that is Leviticus. Like I said, I kind of rushed through it. I just did two videos on the whole book, but like I say, some of it's not worth. I mean, it's worth reading it and studying it, but people's got to read it for themselves instead of taking people's word for it. Like I said, I've just given you an insight and a little sum up of the book of Leviticus, of what all they had to do, but I didn't go into detail because you had to do a lot of work to make us offer a sacrifice and an offering and stuff, and that's a lot of laws to follow by too. But that is Leviticus.